I've helped many, many, many children, thousands of children all over the world. Cancer kids, leukemia kids.
He's a
humanitarian.
The real Michael Jackson.
Hello, Joseph. How you doing?
Doing good. Sorry about
Sorry?
No, sorry about yesterday. It's crazy.
No, it's fine. I don't know if you know about my book, Humanitarian, the real Michael Jackson. Have you heard of that?
I do actually.
Yeah, so you know about it. It's all about the humanitarian efforts of Michael Jackson. I know your story isn't about sick kids or illnesses, but I still wanted to chat with you because I thought it was still an act of kindness and something positive that we could talk about and something fun, I think, a very unique story.
Yeah, for sure.
Something a bit of fun. And I'd like to know more anyway, personally, about your story. So I'd love to go back, I suppose, and if you could tell us when you became a Michael Jackson fan, when you discovered him.
Oh, well, I think it was weird because back when I was young, which was, I just turned 50. So if you think about it, Michael Jackson, every time Michael Jackson released an album, it was at a pivotal moment in my life, right? So the first record I ever bought, graduating high school, graduating college, there was always an album to kind of mark pinnacle events in my life. But ironically, when I was kind of at that age where people are starting to discover the kind of music that they like, I was kind of, and maybe it was around the influence around me, it was very sort of rock and roll. It was a lot of the rock bands of the 80s, right? Think sort of like Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Def Leppard. And it wasn't really until I had purchased Michael Jackson Thriller. Again, it was one of the first albums that I bought, but I'd wrapped myself in this sort of rock and roll world. And I remember winning tickets to the Bad concert when I was in high school. And because I won those tickets, I went and I saw this concert. I mean, always appreciated, obviously, Michael Jackson, but when I went to go see the concert, I guess my jaw dropped, for 2.5 hours. And it was the first concert I ever gone to as well. So I didn't even know that there was like an encore, right? So he sings, I don't know if you're familiar with the set list of Bad, but he sings The Way You Make Me Feel. The crowd gets excited. It feels like it's the end of the concert. And I'm starting to walk out. I'm sorry, he sings Bad. He's starting to walk out, and all of a sudden you hear that and I'm almost left the stadium, and you hear that beat of The Way You Make Me Feel. So I came back. But anyway, I bring it up because that was the moment where I like kind of transitioned into like this hardcore like rock and roll, or into like a huge Michael Jackson fan. So that's when the sort of idolization started anyway. And when I was preparing, I had just graduated college, and I was preparing my real life, my new job, my new career. And I had about 3 weeks sort of before like ending college and starting my new job. And Michael was playing. He hadn't toured in the US in a while, so I hadn't seen him since back in 1988. And he was touring in the UK at Wembley Stadium. And I had that, and it was during that pinnacle, couple of weeks before I started my new life. And I decided to just get tickets and head over to London. And when I was there, the sort of fandom is very different, or it was at the time, in Europe than it was in the US. So going to London and before the concert and going to his hotel, there are thousands of people just waiting for him to walk out, right? You can imagine.
Yeah.
At this time, actually, he was with Lisa Marie Presley, and she was also at the hotel. So there were lots of activity, right? Both from the cameras and the press and all the fans. So he comes out, and all of a sudden there's like a sea of like, feels like thousands of people like charging towards his motorcade, right? So he gets in the car, and people are banging on the windows. You can't get out. And I'm like looking at this kind of like, it's weird, but I kind of got caught up in it. So I winded up, joining the others and I don't know what happened. I got pushed. I don't know. I tripped. I don't even know. But next thing I know, I'm like pinned underneath the car that Michael's in, and the car winds up on my leg while in the street. And when I say on my leg, the car's got fans in the front, so he can't move forward. Got fans in the back, it can't move. So it was literally on my leg. I would say for a good 45 seconds before it could actually move.
Oh my God.
So, it finally moves. The next thing I know, the ambulance is coming to get me, and I'm carted away to the local hospital. And the next thing I know, I have all these like the tabloids at the time. They were like literally in the waiting room, like, hey, do you know what just happened? Hey, do you want to? They're like offering me money to tell my story. Like I'm gonna say something bad.
Wow.
Like you could tell, like that's all they wanted to hear, right?
Yeah.
So next thing I know, like it's such a long time ago, to be honest. But the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from Jonathan Morris. I don't know if you know that name, but Jonathan Morris was the head of communications at Sony Records in London, and I think responsible for all of Europe. And he was a close friend with Michael. Had heard about what happened, and apparently, I mean, I have no disillusion that this was a PR set up by Michael's team to we want to make sure that kid is okay, and I think we should get in front of it. I imagine all those things kind of play into it. But next thing I had a call that said Michael's very concerned about what happened, and he would really like to meet with you. So we actually went to his hotel room. I had dinner with a few of the MJ sort of fan club kind of leaders on, a couple names that you may or may not know. But the next thing, and Jonathan's there, and I'm supposed to meet Michael in the hotel room, and we were just told that he was not available, and he wanted to see me at the concert. So we arranged it the next night that I was going to go backstage at Wembley and meet Michael, and I got to tell you, it was the most amazing sight that I had ever seen, because to get to Michael's dressing room, literally, this is 10 minutes before showtime, 10 minutes before he pops up on the history tour, does this thing. I had to walk across Wembley Stadium, the stage, and I'm literally looking at, I think it 85. I don't know what the number is of the stadium. I'm walking by, and because it's 5 to 10 minutes before showtime, so you can imagine that they know Michael's about to come, so the audience is pumped, they're screaming his name, and I'm walking across this, and I'm seeing the sight that this man got to see for 20 years of his life every time he got on stage, and it was deafening, and it was the kind of sight that I'll never forget. But anyway, I finally get to his dressing room, and by the way, there's a US TV show that's following me during this whole event that I agreed to participate. So they're following me. This, George Lucas is in the back. I'm talking to sort of famous people. And I go, and I'm sitting in front of his dressing room. Lisa Marie walks out, and then someone basically said, Joe, Michael's ready for you. So I literally walked in, and I had, this good few minutes with him. I'm on my crutches, if you will, and we're kind of having a little bit of a conversation about what happened. I told him where I was from. He apologized. He said he loved me. I said, I love you more. The whole cliche Michael fan banter, right? And then he gets on his knees and he signs my cast in a couple different places. He definitely noticed that the first time he did it was a little hard to read, so he wanted to do it more on the plaster part. So he's very, very conscious of it, which was nice. Then we hugged, we took a few photos, and I was escorted out, and I was in one of the VIP sections watching the concert. Granted, 2 nights ago, I was actually in the front row just watching it as a fan. So that actually ironically happened before I got hit. It was just a weird 4 or 5 days of my life, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah. Because there was 3 concerts at Wembley?
There was 5. The history, I think they did 5.
And you had tickets to 1?
Maybe it was 3. You know what? I don't remember. Maybe Dangerous was 5. I know Bad was like 8 or 9, and then Dangerous was maybe 5. And you're right, maybe History was 3 nights. But I watched the first night. I did the whole, you wait in queue, and then you run towards the front of the stadium, and you hope to get into that initial pit. So I was there. I got that. And then And then the next night after I met him, I was whatever night that was, second or third night, I was in the VIP section. And who else was there? Brian May from Queen was
Wow.
there. A couple, they were filming Star Wars, the prequels, during that time. And again, I said George Lucas was there, but that entire like episode 1, 2, and 3 cast was there as well, including
Wow.
Natalie Portman and a few others. So it was a very exclusive sort of event. It was all kind of a bit overwhelming, if I'm being honest. But
Yeah.
I also learned that my story, although it was filmed for one TV show, I winded up getting picked up by a lot of the major entertainment shows in the US. So I was getting calls from home saying, "We just saw you on Access Hollywood. We just saw you on Inside Edition." It was kind of cool. It was my little 15 minutes of fame. But anyway, all of that was sort of over. I go home, I start my life, I do my thing, and the next thing I know, I'm getting more involved into it, right? Because you just met Michael Jackson. How do you kind of top that? So the next thing I know, I'm kind of I'm in New York. I'm kind of in the communications PR world in and of itself for what I do. So the next thing I know, I'm forging relationships with his PR director and other folks. So the next thing I know, I'm getting invited to a lot of events, right? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, I'm in the front row. His tour with Rabbi Shmuley, and what's going on there. And at this time, I'm also writing for King Magazine, which was a fan magazine that was happening in Europe during the time. So I'm getting a lot of access to Michael, and I'm in the front for the front row of a lot of events. And I, as part of this sort of King Magazine, I actually also got to throw a big party for him during his concert series in Madison Square Garden. So a big tribute to him at Webster Hall. Literally, our party was September 9th. His first, which was the night between his first show and his last show, which was September 10th, and obviously we know what happened on September 11th. But 2 days before that, I was throwing this huge celebration for Michael Jackson in between his shows at Webster Hall, and I was being filmed by VH1. So the VH1 did this whole documentary on me. It was about 20 minutes long, where they actually followed the day in the life of a Michael Jackson fan. So they told my story about meeting Michael, and I got to do this whole interview with them around just being a fan, planning the party, and what Michael means to me and all that. And they interviewed me at work and my friends. And it was like one of those things. But anyway, all of that to be said is that I had done a lot of press on behalf of Michael and really tried to help. And I've met him on many occasions.
Oh, really?
The point where I know he recognized me, but he didn't know my name. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those like Where's Waldo situations. Oh, there's that guy, right? Because his people had made sure that I was sort of front and center, in some of those events.
Cool.
I was the front row at the 30th anniversary tour in New York. I talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony, but a lot of these events I was sort of front and center because I had access that I didn't. And then obviously a couple of years later after that, the world gets turned upside down, and then all of that access and all the people around him that I knew are gone, and it sort of ended at that point.
Yeah, man. There's a lot to your story. I want to just go back to when you met him backstage at the history tour, because I've seen some photos of him signing your cast and he's down on his knee, but I haven't seen any official photo with you guys together. Was there a photo of you guys together, an official photo taken?
Yeah. I could definitely send you that. And there's another photo of me and Michael backstage at Webster Hall, which I like is my favorite. It's so funny. I show anyone any of those pictures, and they're like, "There's no way that's him." And I have to tell the story. But I'm an adult now. I have kids. It's hard to. It's not that I proactively bring it up. I mean, I was even hesitant having this conversation. It's just not that I'm embarrassed, not at all. Just the opposite. But I feel like I'm at a point in my life where that was so long ago.
I get it.
But yeah, but it's so funny. This weekend I brought last Tuesday, I brought my 6-year-old daughter to her first Broadway show, and we happened to go see MJ the musical, just me and her, front row, and it was a way to sort of, because I play the music in the car, and she sings along, and she asks me all the time, why do you like Michael Jackson so much, blah blah blah. So this was my way of kind of like sharing with her, the why, right? So next thing I know, we're home this weekend, she's singing all the songs in her head. Usually you bring your first kid to go see The Lion King or Aladdin on Broadway. You don't go see like a show like this. But I knew she was gonna be able to handle it, because she was so intimately familiar with the music because of me.
And she's going to discover him anyway. Like, kids are going to discover Michael Jackson anyway.
I say this all the time. People talk about like the big '80s stars like Bruce Springsteen or Madonna, and I say they were great, and I love them all. I have all their albums, but their fans, their audiences, they've aged along with those stars. So I think Michael is probably the only artist that continues to attract a new legion of young fans. So, I mean, when I was at the show, I mean, there were kids like in like 7, 8 dressed up like Michael. Like they're not doing that for Bruce Springsteen. They're not doing that for Madonna. Like, and I think that's why he will always be sort of recognized as probably the most, and like when you ask young kids today who's the most famous entertainer or who's the best entertainer, they're not going to say the Beatles or Elvis, right? They might say Michael, yeah, they might say Taylor Swift, but I think that there's this uniqueness around him that allows new audiences to discover him in a way that does not happen with other musical artists from that time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what he was aiming for. He always said he wanted to be timeless, and he wanted the music to live on for decades and decades, which it does. So he did a good job there. Did you go to both 30th anniversary concerts?
I did.
Now, I've heard stories of after the second concert, after 9/11 happened, fans talking about Michael reaching out and helping them get out of town, or helping them with accommodation or food. Did you come across any stories like that at the time?
I did not.
No.
Yeah. Ironically, though, I had stayed overnight in New York. I live in New Jersey, which is just a state below it. And I had stayed over on the night of the 10th, so I was actually getting and going to work the next morning. So I was in my car in New York, driving through the Holland Tunnel, which is a way to get from New York to New Jersey. At the time that everything was happening, and I literally, from entering the tunnel to getting out of the tunnel, everything had happened. And when we were out, you literally can see sort of everything happening, because from the view from New Jersey, you can actually see the building. So it was a really sort of somber and like up close, view of what was happening, and just ironically happening after probably one of the best days of my life, right? Being able to see this concert. So it was a really weird, unfortunate, and happy time of my life. I had friends I went to high school with that were in the building that were killed. If you lived in the area, which I do, it was hard not to know someone who was unfortunately in that building. But no, I mean, I've heard those stories as well. But I'm not aware. I will tell you one of the stories that I will tell you is that I went to a little unknown thing that he had done, but he winded up going to, and we were invited because I knew the PR people and what was going on, but he wound up doing a very low key event in Newark, New Jersey. I don't know if you know much about Newark, New Jersey, but it's a very urban, at the time, very disenfranchised, low income community city. And he went there, and he was introduced by Cory Booker, who's one of the senators in New Jersey. And he was at this movie theater, and he was just giving out books to kids, young kids of color, and in hopes of just fostering this, learning and reading, and learning about the world. So, I bring that one up is because you probably didn't even know that happened, but it was all around the sort of heal the kids, heal the world sort of foundation sort of items, but it was a very low key press. It was weird seeing Michael in a Newark, New Jersey movie theater handing out books to kids. It was very, 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 very. But I got to talk to him again, and I actually got 3 or 4 things signed from him, including the first photo of me, the one that you just asked me, the photo of him signing my cast. I actually got him to sign the
Oh,
photo
wow.
of me in the cast. So he
That's
definitely
so
knew who I
cool.
was. Yeah.
I'd love to see that photo.
Yeah, I'll send it over to him.
That's unreal, and I did know about that story, but only because I researched all the positive things he's been doing and the humanitarian side. But yeah, there's stories a lot like that aren't out there, and that's really just why I wanted to document this chat and every chat I can, because I don't want these stories to get lost. And in the research that I did for my book, there's so many. Of course, when you're dealing with sick kids and people with illnesses that are terminal, a lot of the stories pass with the people that hold those stories. So, and there's people that I had. My book came out in 2018, and I've tried to maintain some conversations with people that told me their story, or that were going to tell me their story. And there were some people that were going to tell me their story that have passed away since. And it just made me realize, oh no, I want to speak to everybody. I want to get all these stories, because we're not forever, and there's enough crap written about him that I'd like some of the good stuff to be written as well and shared.
Yeah, no, I've definitely come across your work, and always thought, obviously, it was a way of shining a spotlight. For me, every person has their I don't know how to say it, not pros and cons, but they have their their life, and it's multifaceted, and there are things that people gravitate towards and people not. Some things are true, some things are not. But for me, I think the part of Michael that has always been not misunderstood, but really no one really kind of focused on, because they're so busy focusing on other things, is certainly the humanitarian efforts. And I know that there's like this Guinness Book of World Records thing, and I get all that, but I don't really think that's what it means. It's not about the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. It's actually the stuff that came out of it. And
Yeah.
I think even my story, I mean, if you think about it, it's a fan who got hurt, and you could tell that he was certainly not happy about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people got fired as a result, because he was very protective of his fans. But him reaching out and doing the right thing, at least by me, was important. And of course, all my medical bills were paid for, I'm assuming, by Sony, to be honest. But
Yeah.
a small drop in the bucket of the kindness that he would give to his fans, for sure.
Yeah. Do you still have the cast?
I do.
Have you got that in like a glass case or something, or is it just in the
I
back of
don't.
the
I've
garage?
moved a few times, so I have it wrapped up, and it's in a safe spot. My guess, my gut tells me that in 30 years, I could give it to my kids, when I pass away, and then they could
Yep.
do whatever they want with it as it relates to that. But yeah.
That's so cool.
I have a lot of memories. They're mostly in my head. I used to be the fan that collected all of the memorabilia, and
So
I
did
some of
I.
that in boxes. I just you just stop.
Yep.
Although I have friends in the U.S. that oh god, they're it's just as prevalent as it was
Yeah.
20 years ago, and God bless them, but like their whole house, and they
Oh
got kids
wow.
themselves. It's literally walking into a museum, and I appreciate it, and I live vicariously through them, to be honest. But
Yeah.
did I buy the Thriller 40 anniversary album? Of course I did. Did I go see MJ the musical 3 times? Yes. Did I go see the
Yeah.
Vegas show twice? Of course.
Yeah. You can still enjoy his work. You just do it differently.
That's right.
Well, life's a lot busier now with kids and a family, and you've got a lot of other priorities.
For sure. And I feel like I'm also at a point in my life where I can. It's ironic. I can take a trip to Vegas to see the show. Like I can afford to do that stuff. So I'd rather do that. I'm going to see Diana Ross front row on June 24th.
Cool.
And I'm gonna wear my Michael shirt, and I'm hoping I'm hoping, because I'm literally in the front row, like right in front of her. She's
Yeah.
gonna see it, and she's gonna say something, do something, and say something nice. So that's my goal, and I'll let you know if that happens, by the way.
Yeah, give a wink or a point. Are you going to see Janet?
Yeah. No, I've seen Janet a few times. Ironically, I like Janet. I have bought every single one of her albums, but it wasn't near the fascination that I had with
Yeah.
Michael. I mean, I don't know what it was. I'm sure it's the same with you. It's just the
Magic.
man for me was like, he was not like of this planet. And I know this is very controversial with MJ fans, but I think Michael always intended not to be around in his 60s and 70s. He even wrote it in his book, right? He doesn't see himself being a Mick Jagger, right? He literally says that. And I'm not saying, obviously I'm not saying what you think I'm saying. I'm just saying that because he died so young, he becomes sort of ageless and timeless forever, right?
Yeah.
And a moment in time where, and again, I think if, like, you see Madonna right now, she's aging in a way which unfortunately people are not appreciative of, and he doesn't have to go through any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I know that sounds weird, and of course I'd love for him to be here making music, but I feel like there's some kind of like positive aspect of him just being able to leave us with all this great work, and for people to remember it in a way, where he wasn't like this 80-year-old man and some, trying to recreate something that was, it's, I know it's weird and I have a warped brain about it, but
No, I get it 100%.
that's my
Honestly,
feeling.
yeah, 100%.
And he doesn't have to go through what would have, the last, what happened in 2019, right? Like with all of that.
Again,
Like, he's not here to experience and see any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and his kids are well adjusted, thank God, and I'm sure he'd be happy about that as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks again for telling me your story. It's pretty cool. It's pretty unique. I'm so glad you told it. And thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks for reaching out on Facebook. And
No problems, man.
good luck with the ongoing effort, and I'm looking forward to